1986 when life really began for me. I was living in Kansas City with my mother, my brother, and my sister. I was dating my friend's brother, a Marine stationed in California, and that Marine's name was Lee. Our long-distance relationship had been going on for about a year, and we had talked about marriage, but there were no plans in the very near future. It was one Sunday afternoon I received a phone call, and he said he received orders to Hawaii. It was a 3-year tour, and he had 30 days to report to duty. Wow, I thought, 3 years. I only got to see him about once a month now, so living in Hawaii would probably be once a year. So I thought about this for a while, and I decided to pack up the nest and head west. Lee came back to Kansas City to get his car and to pack the remaining items from his home. And on April 12th of 1986, we packed up his 1983 Ford Mustang and headed out on I-70. Before leaving town, we stopped by my mother's office, and I apologized in advance for the words I was ready to deliver. I said, "Mom, I've packed up all my clothes. I'm moving away to spend the rest of my life with Lee." I was 17. After arriving in California, we soon realized that after arriving in California to pack up his barracks and finalize his orders to Hawaii, we soon realized that the only way the government would accompany me to go to Hawaii with them was to be his wife. Another road trip, Vegas it was. On April 27th of 1986, at the World Chapel of the Bells, I became Mrs. Foster. A few days later, we were on a plane heading to Hawaii. By the way, he still brags about that 3-year honeymoon. About 6 months aboard him, I decided to look for a job. I found a job at JCPenney's at a nearby mall. I started out as a sales associate and worked my way up to merchandising manager. After about a year of retail sales, I was ready for a change. My chiropractor offered me a job I couldn't refuse. I started doing deep tissue massage for Dr. Montz, and I continued working for Dr. Montz until leaving the islands. My husband decided that, to make a career in the military is not what he wanted to do. So after his 3-year tour, he was honorably discharged from the Marine Corps. And since both of our parents lived in Kansas City, we figured that was the most logical place to start our lives as civilians. And at the age of 20, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I just took the first job that was offered to me, and that was an insurance writer at Ohio Casualty. My hard work and determination to always better myself paid off. I was promoted several times within my 8 years there. Back in the early 1980s, or early 1990s, insurance companies went through organizational change, and Ohio Casualty was one of them. They offered me a job in Denver, Colorado, but I chose to stay in Kansas City and found another job at Kemper Insurance. I was there for a couple of years, and they ended up closing their Kansas City office, and I quickly found a job at Universal Underwriters. This job was different than all my other insurance jobs. This was a sales position with commission and bonus. I was the inside sales rep for the Northeast Territory and worked very closely with my regional marketing manager. Together we grew our territory and exceeded our monthly goals. Back then I soared like an eagle, the sky was the limit, and I had the confidence to do anything. 22 years later, I'm still in insurance and still asking myself what I want to do when I grow up. It feels like I've hit a plateau in life. I feel like some call it a midlife crisis, some call it going through the change. One day I woke up and I was afraid of failure, afraid of what people will think of me, and afraid to speak in front of groups of people, large or small. A couple months ago, my boss asked me to speak in front of a group of interns about what we do in our industry. And I thought, well, that's a no-brainer, just talking about what I do every day. Boy, was I wrong. I stood in front of those 20 interns and I crumbled. I excused myself from the lectern, and thankfully the meeting continued. At the end of that day, I called my closest friends and cried on their shoulder and said, "What is wrong with me? I'm losing control." And one of my dear friends said, "You should look into this club called Toastmasters." I said, "Okay." She's like, "They'll help you build your confidence and they'll help you speak in front of people." So I mentioned this club to my mom, and ironically, one of her coworkers' husband was a member of Toastmasters. So I called this number that I was given and received a warm invitation to sit in on a meeting. Thank you, Brad, who's not here, for inviting me to your meeting. Thank you, Marie, for being a great mentor, and thank you, Karen, for your encouraging words. You can do it. Put your game face on. Hear me? Right? The only way to combat your fears is to face them. I never thought I could run a half marathon. Just a few months ago, I ran two within 6 weeks of each other. To run 13 miles takes a lot of practice, and to speak with confidence in front of people takes a lot of practice, and I will do this. I shared with you my yesterday and today, and I will leave a quote with you about my goals for tomorrow. Aristotle quote stated, and I quoted, "I count him braver who conquers his desires than he who conquers his enemies. For the hardest victory is the victory over self." Thank you.